Hey, hello, and hi, and welcome to Northwest Vikings Echoes podcast. I am Junior Noah Marsh.
And I am Senior Aaron Anderson.
This is Northwest Podcast, where we spotlight one of our students or teachers that walk the halls with you every day.
Today we have Mr. Kaplan, one of our counselors, here to talk to us about Social and Emotional Learning Week. March 3rd through the 7th is National Social and Emotional Learning Week. However, Guilford County is celebrating it the 10th through the 14th. So can you kind of give us an explanation on what that week means?
It's a week where we focus on self-care and we worry about others and ourselves and prioritizing getting to feel socially and emotionally ready to take on the rest of the year.
Well, that's perfect because it ties right into our theme, which is mental health awareness and managing stress. So our first question here is, why do you think students in particular manage stress?
I think it's a balance of trying to figure out the expectations we have for ourselves, figure out the expectations that our parents have for us, and trying to find a balancing point between that and what reality looks like and what we're capable of doing. So, I think, once we figure out balancing between expectations, we can really move forward in, managing stress.
Yeah, how can you kind of tell the difference between normal everyday stress and when it starts to become a problem?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think stress has a negative connotation, but it's not always a negative word. Like if we didn't have stress, we would put our hands on the oven and just leave it there. Like these things, we have stress to kind of warn ourselves of things out there, factors out there that could affect us physically, emotionally, all those kind of things. So I think stress it's great to a point, and then after that, it's kind of, when it becomes debilitating, that's when we kind of have to step back and be like, this is something we need to get a hold of now. But I think that balancing act is really difficult, especially in high school students.
So would you say people too often use it as a negative connotation, like you said? Or would you say, would it be helpful to bring it back and look at it more as a broader perspective, not as negative?
Well, I think stress, we grow through conflict. So if stress is you're in an uncomfortable situation, so trying to figure out how to manage that uncomfortable position rather than just trying to avoid it is how we're going to learn to be better as people.
Yeah. How can we become aware of our stress levels? Like, how do we know?
I think, you can tell when your heart rate starts going, you're nervous on a podcast like we are now, certain things like that. I think, you can be in tune with your body is really important. Back hurts, you're not sleeping as well, all kinds of things like that are signs of stress.
That's kind of ties in right into our next question. The question was, are there any specific situations or events that tend to trigger stress in students? So do you see one, to kind of shift it, do you see one that happens a lot more often than others? What are some patterns you see?
I see there's a lot more students in my office on test days than there are on other days. ACT, SAT, all kinds of stuff like that. I think students put a lot of stake in that. But I think managing your own expectations and also realizing that these tests are just a small indicator of who you are. They don't define you as a person. So kind of being able to manage that stress that day is really important.
You talk about managing stress. Do you think it would be helpful to manage time to be able to manage stress? How important is time management in reducing stress? And what are some effective strategies to be able to do that?
So that is a great question. So I think our students, they don't focus enough on self-care. And I think planning for self-care is really important. Like we all say, I shower or I read a book for self-care, but it's like, are you putting that in your schedule? Or are you letting yourself get to a point where it's overwhelming before you start doing self-care? Mm-hmm. So I think time management is important for getting things you need to do in your everyday, but also planning for yourself.
Let's talk about boundaries. How can students learn to set their boundaries and knowing when to say no?
That is tough because I think, there's this pressure to take on as many things as you can, for colleges or wherever you want to go next. You're like, I want to be in 9 different clubs and I want to, be a part of every little thing. But I really think if you can't put all of yourself into it because you're spread so thin, it really reflects. So I think finding something that you're passionate about and focusing on that, taking a leadership in that is going to be more important than just spreading yourself so thin.
I just had a situation the past week. You're trying to balance all of it. And I had a friend ask me if I wanted to go hang out after school. And my immediately thought was no, I just really don't feel like going today. But then I thought about it and I realized I had said no to the last 5 people that had asked me. So I was just like, I just got to get myself out there. I got to do it. And it ended up being very worth going. Kind of goes right into our next one is how can students manage stress related to academic performance, such as test anxiety, performance didn't get on good grades, or even stuff outside of academics, extracurriculars, family, friends, job.
I mean, I'll say, and it's probably not the best message coming from a school counselor, but school is important. It really is important, but it's not the most important thing. So, if you're struggling with your mental health, it's really hard to do well in classes or your clubs or anything. So I think, understanding your body and understanding how you're feeling is going to lead to better academic performance.
So how do they balance that? Is it, do they focus more on what makes them happy? Do they focus more on what will make them happy, like getting academics grade to plan for a future, or taking time to maybe not study for a test and go to bed earlier that night to see if it'll help?
That is a balancing act I'm still working on. I mean, I think it's a good question. I mean, if you're always looking 5 years down the road, it's really hard to enjoy the present. So, like you said, if you're worried about you're not going to do well on this test, which could lead to closing doors for you later, that's a tough way to live. I mean, I think, taking it minute by minute, but still being prepared for everything that's coming is the best way you can handle stress and planning.
How can students access counseling services or just any other support program?
Great question. So we have 6 counselors here, and also we have virtual counseling that we can offer for someone offsite, and then we have someone who comes here on Tuesdays who meets with students throughout the day. So there's a lot of opportunities here, and also we have a list of counselors and places where you can go if you need to talk to someone outside of school.
You said someone comes in on Tuesdays. Can you elaborate on that? Because I didn't even know that, and
Yeah.
I'm a senior. I've been coming here for 4
I
years.
had no idea.
So it is new. We just started it, but
Okay.
we have someone who comes in on Tuesday. Her name's Holly. She's wonderful, and we have students who sign up throughout the day who will meet with her. I think she sees 6 or 7 students a semester, and that's something we just got, and I think it's going to be really popular. And I think that students who have any interest should come and see us so we can get them signed up.
That's
So
cool.
they come to you if they want to get signed up for
Yep,
that?
and we will manage it from there.
Yeah, that's great. What advice do you have for parents or teachers to help their student or their kid kind of manage their stress?
I think talking about their strength space and not focusing on you have a 37 in math, focusing on hey, you had a 50 in English last semester and now you have a 62. I mean, that is growth, and I think if we focus on growth, we're going to get results from students. And also letting students know that it's okay to struggle. You're going to grow from that. And also you have support wherever you go, whether it's teachers, counselors, other students, assistant principals, whoever it is, we are here to support.
Well, that pretty much covers everything. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. We're very grateful for all the tips and tricks you've given us. Time management is number one. Is know yourself, know what you need to do. That's all for today. Keep an eye out for the next episodes, and thank you guys, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
So long and sayonara.